Hey YouTube. All right, we're going to get right into it. This Buddhism with the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. Today is a beautiful day here in Cleveland, Ohio. I think it's supposed to be about 80 degrees. And I'm going to get out in it. We just had some snow. What was it? I think this past Monday or Tuesday. Accumulated snow. All right. So that's the wonders of living here in Cleveland, Ohio. All right. But anyway, but it's spring. So I always say around this time of year, when we had those cold days, well, at least we know what's coming. We know spring is here. We know summer is on its way. It's different than like if it's in November and we had some nice days mixed in with some cold days. It's like, well, winter is on its way. But anyway, and I have seen some buds on some of the branches. Not enough, but I've seen some of it coming through. I don't know what type of trees they are. My brother, one time we were talking, he was visiting, and this was years ago. We were just driving down one of the streets that had a lot of trees on it, and he knew, what each tree was, the kind of tree it was, and everything. It was, well, I wasn't going to take time to study it. But I was fascinated, that he knew. But nevertheless, but of course, he used to go camping, like out and by him, well, not by himself, with people, but not like at a campsite. I mean, where, well, I shouldn't say a campsite, a camp, that is sponsored by a particular group. No, he go pitch the tent type of camping. So he was much more into that type of thing than I am. All right. But anyway, let's get on with this. The Four Noble Truths. Here we are talking about Buddhism once again. All right. Perhaps to add in their memorization, some Buddhist teachings were grouped into 4s and 8s. Okay, so what's the significance of 4s and 8s? I don't know. All right, but let's see here. The Four Noble Truths are a linked chain of the truths about life. As mentioned in my last video, what is the first one? Suffering exists. It has a cause. It has an end, and there's a way to be released from suffering by following the Noble Eightfold Path. All right, so let's go over this first noble truth. Remember, this is the truth. Okay, it's just what it is right in the title of it. Okay, no need to make it anything grand, more grand than what it is, or mysterious. It just simply is the truth. Okay, the first noble truth is to live is to suffer. Or let's say it like this: birth is attended with pain, decay is painful, disease is painful, death is painful. I know there's somewhere in the biblical scriptures that speak about, being born is not, a celebratory thing. All right. I know we all have this thing about valuing life and as though everyone's supposed to do it. And if you don't, you're some evil person or something is wrong with you, but it comes, I feel that it would come from an understanding that knowing to be born, okay, born into this realm and into this reality is not, a favored thing. Okay, by some, I would say by some spiritual teachings, okay, or some religious teachings, all right? We know what life is here. We can pretend that it's something else. Now, don't get me wrong. I think life has its beautiful and wonderful aspects, okay? But we also know that, living is suffering, okay? If you're going to live in this, at least in this 3D reality, I don't know about any others, okay, that I can recall at least. All right. We know in this one, it's not a beautiful one, okay? We know that it is attended with pain, okay? Just the birthing process itself is attended with pain, which I think is interesting. I had a friend who said, she didn't have a painful birth at all. Some people don't, and I'm not talking about in terms of, being under, like when well, I can't say under, anesthetized, like when women have a C-section or whatever. All right. And that wasn't my experience. All right. But anyway, birth is attended with pain. Decay is painful. Again, decay. What are we saying? Decay is painful. We know, remember the 4 passing sites. We know that we're going to grow old. We know that our body is going to break down. Our youth is going to wither away. We begin to decay. Everything begins to decay. All right, at some point, no matter how strong and beautiful a tree may be, it's going to decay too. It's going to die too. All right. Disease is painful. Okay. Death is painful. So it's like you're born into this life. You find the beauty of it as best as you possibly can. And we know life here is painful, but yet death is painful. Doesn't mean you necessarily have a painful death, just the experience of death, experiencing the death of a loved one. And some people do have painful deaths. All right. You know, I don't know how true it is. I was sharing with my daughter the other day about the woman who raised me, mom number one. Okay. Her father was a minister. Okay. And I had heard my uncle say that, you know, that he had committed suicide. And I asked her if it was true. She said, yeah, you know, and I asked her why. And she said, because he was a very independent person, liked to take, you know, loved being able to take care of himself. And when he got old and he was not able to, it was something that he couldn't handle, didn't like other people having to take care of him. So decay is painful. So what did he opt to do? He opted to just, you know, leave this space on his own terms. All right. And so we know that a lot of times older people, as we age and we find that we can't do the things that we used to do, or our bodies don't move the way they used to, or maybe even feeling like we no longer have a place in society, or feeling unwanted in our society. Now, I can't speak about others' cultures, like I told you in the one video about the one culture that the missionary visited, and, you know, they kind of laughed at some of the things that are part of our culture, because they was like, you know, we just don't do that here. We don't have those issues, okay? Or, you know, cultures where it would seem as though the elderly are more valued for what they have to offer, versus those, you know, where they're not really as valued. And I do think that Western culture is like that. I don't think we value the elderly, you know, in a way that we should. Again, like I said in my last video, people get off on, you know, one of their great insults. They feel it's a great insult. It's calling someone old. So ridiculous, but that speaks to the culture that we live in, you know, to think that, you know, that is an insult. So yeah, decay is painful. Growing old can be painful. Again, the body begins to wither. The mind may even begin to wither away and decay. So interesting. I saw a video, a short here on YouTube last week of a man. They were saying like he was 121 or something like that. But his granddaughter was saying that he was actually 109 years old. I mean, but looked like he was laying in a hospital bed in their home. I mean, like what? He didn't look like he had much mobility, you know, was able to move, but definitely you could look at him and tell he was in a place where other people had to attend to him and take care of him. Okay. But yet his biologically, you know, or what would it be physiologically? I'm not sure. You know, his body is still working. You know, those organs are still working. He's still waking up every day. I was having a conversation at my job with couple of co-workers, and they were talking about one man was talking about his mother, maybe it was his grandmother, how she at 94, you know, she it might have been his mom, I can't remember, but nevertheless she had cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer. And based off what he was saying, I said, well, did she ever get any treatment or anything? Because it didn't sound like it. And he said no. You know, I can't remember how. Oh, yeah. She had been diagnosed 2 years before she passed, which was recent. And she just was like, hey, you know, I've lived my life. I'm satisfied. I've done what I needed to do. There's no need for me to prolong this. Well, the doctors diagnosed that she would only live like 2 more months or something like that. But here she lived 2 more years. And then my other coworker, who was a part of the conversation, said the same thing about her grandmother. Like she was 94 years old. I think, and I think she's still living, actually. Yeah, she's still living. And, you know, but her attitude and spirit was, you know, hey, you know, I'm ready to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? You know, she's had an opportunity to think about it. Well, that was my great-grandmother, my big mommy. You know, I remember years, quite a few years, well, maybe about 3 or 4 years before she died, she kept telling me, you know, because I was spending a lot of time with her, and she kept telling me, I'm sure she was telling others too, you know, I am done. I am ready to go. I don't know exactly how old she was. I do know she was in her 90s. Um, she had lied at some point, started lying about her age. So I'm not, it's like my mom number one was telling me no one really knows exactly how old, she was, but she had shared with me often, I am ready to go. And I do not, I don't know why the Lord is keeping me here. There is nothing, she felt like there's nothing left for me to do. Her husband, of course, he was much older than her when they got married. She was only like 18 and he was 45 years old. So he had died when I was like 1 year old. And so that was probably like 1973. And I think she passed when I was in my mid to late 20s, so she outlived them, 20, almost 30 years. And, nevertheless, I was just talking about, when you feel like you have nothing left to contribute, or you possibly feel like, like they did, there's no reason for me to be here anymore. But yet I was thinking about this man that I was saying was 109, yet he continues to wake up, every day, and he may possibly feel the same way, hey, here I am in a hospital bed, I'm immobile and other people have to take care of me, but I still wake up every morning. But let's keep on going here. Having a body means that we can be tired and sick, and of course that's not just for older people, that's just period. We get tired, which is not the greatest feeling in the world when you're tired and you may have to continue to do things, and you're sick. We all, we've all experienced sickness, whether it may just be a minor cold, shit, having allergies to me is sickness. That is a very uncomfortable situation. Having a mind means that we can be troubled and discouraged. We have all experienced some trouble in some way, shape, or form, and we have, I'm sure many of us, if not all of us, have experienced feeling discouraged at some point. We have so many daily duties that our lives become just like a long list of things to do. This is what I'm saying. I got to do this. I got to do that. Got to take care of this and that. And we feel like jugglers trying to keep too many balls spinning in the air. The past cannot be relived. Okay. For any of you that are watching that are middle-aged, like myself, okay, or older, or maybe even younger, but I would definitely say middle-aged, because, that's part of that, what people call midlife crisis. I had someone say to me the other day, it's not a crisis, it's an awakening. And in a sense, it is, you're awakening to a new level in your life, a new place in your life. Okay, but it's done. Okay. And unfortunately, as you're living life, you don't think that you're living a past that you're going to look back on at one point and miss. You just are living. Okay. And even if you are, it still moves. Time still moves. So, you can't go back to that. You can't relive that. It does not fit any longer. It is not, your self, your being has moved beyond that physically, emotionally, mentally, so on and so forth. And many people, I think especially in a society that values youth or acts like youth is the greatest thing going, and there's the only thing that has value, you may try to relive those things, but and the thing I would say is you're missing out on your present and the great fortune that you can experience in your present, all right, as well as your future. But here he says the future is uncertain. Damn right about that. Okay, we may find ourselves in places that we would never believe. I never would have believed that I would have been here. I never would have believed that this could happen to me, whether positive or negative. All right. And every day we have to decide what to do with the rest of our lives, which is interesting because that's true. I mean, I think that probably they always say live in the present, live in the present. I do agree with living in the present, but I do think that there's some value as well to thinking about our future, but not just living in the future. All right. Maybe planning for the future to the best of our ability. All right. But I think that many of us are thinking constantly about what we're going to do with the rest of our lives, which, you know, can daily, you know, which can take us away from living in the present. It has been remarked that adults so frequently ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay. I remember that growing up, everybody constantly asking, you know, when you little kids, what you want to be when you grow up, which I think is kind of a silly, kind of an asinine thing to do. You know, I don't know if people still ask, you know, children those things, but why would you ask a child what they want to do when they grow up? You know, they've barely experienced anything. And I'm not saying that children cannot have any kind of idea about what they want to do when they grow up, but there's so many things that they have not experienced, so many occupations out there that they don't know about, so much about themselves that they haven't, you know, come to. You know, and you're asking a 5-year-old kid or a 6-year-old kid or a 9-10-year-old kid what you want to do when you grow up. Hell, when I was a kid, right, you know, right now I just want to go outside and play. You understand what I'm saying? You know, or you tell them what you want to do and they discourage you. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was like, well, I want to be an actress. I want to be on TV. I want to be a movie star. They don't make no money. You know, these types of things. In other words, you're not going to be good enough to get to that level, and you as an actress, so you ain't gonna make no money. But, you know, so, you know, it's kind of asinine, I think, to ask children that, as opposed to looking at the child, seeing, you know, watching them, seeing, listening to them, seeing what they are, you know, good at, what they are drawn to, what they like, and then maybe open up some doors and avenues to guide them toward that particular thing, which doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. You know, like my daughter, for example, I remember when she was like 2 years old, and no, she might have been more like 3. I took her to a meeting, and, you know, she was sitting, you know, on the floor with her crayons and her, what she have? Hold on, please. Okay. She was sitting on the floor with her crayons and a coloring book, and a musician was there. And he looked at me, he said, look at how she uses her hands. You know, well, now he was a musician. He had been a musician for God knows how long. And I was just like, what? You know, how did she use it? And he talked about, you know, how she utilized her hands and her fingers. It's just 3-year-old, you know, baby sitting here doing what, you know, having fun with her crayons and her coloring. And he said she would be an awesome musician. Well, you know, she played piano from the age of 5 to the age of 16. So that was about 11 years. And that was one thing that her piano teacher noted, the same thing. I didn't put her in that because of what he said. It was because I feel like, you know, children, you know, should be involved in activities, things that, and, you know, one thing about learning music, it definitely, from my understanding, helps with problem solving. You know, math, you know, when you study music theory and so on and so forth, it did very much benefit her. But as well, but that's just something she said she just didn't want to do. You know, very good at it. She, you know, when she practiced, when she didn't practice, she was good at it. When she did practice, she was great at it, you know. But she, you know, so, but nevertheless, then my mother, number one, she took her to sewing classes. And this girl just... the very first thing she saw was a pillowcase. My mom showed it to me, and I said, well, where'd you go? This is nice. Where'd you all get this? I thought she got it like from the store. And then she said, you know, she made that. And I was like, oh, are you serious? It was impossible. It was perfect. Sewing teacher said the same thing, as well as her baking. My mom had her for a while, taught her how to bake from scratch. Now this is what she has a desire to do, to go into culinary, to be a baker. And she's very good at it, but it's that use of her hands. So I'm just saying, you know, watching the child, okay, or giving them things, or guiding them with things, or teaching them things can help them to learn and see, what is it that I like? What is it that I'm good at? You know, to help them, you know, find a path for them to, in terms of what they may want to do with themselves, as opposed to, and I do think, you know, cooking as well, baking and so on and so forth, that leads to that creativity, and math, you know, possibly even problem solving. But what I'm basically saying is, well, definitely, you know, if you get in there and you mess something up, but what I'm saying is, and you know, you can fix it, you know. is, just asking a child just outright what you want to do when you grow up. Hell, and you don't open any kind of doors or avenues to guide them to something that seems like would be a good fit for them and who they are, what they like, what they're drawn to, what, pay attention to them. And it don't take much to pay attention to a child, because a child is damn going to show you who and what they are. They don't have all the inhibitions necessarily, that we have as we get older. Okay, but let's get back into this. It has been remarked that adults so frequently ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because adults themselves are still trying to figure out what to do with their own lives. And this is true. I remember when I was younger, one thing they used to tell us in school, one thing they used to tell us in college was that, and when I was in high school, that, people even for that time period would often change their career, maybe like at least maybe 3 or 4 times in their lifetime. All right. Okay, to live, and I think that's too because, we're constantly growing. We may outgrow things, something that you may have wanted to do when you was, 20, it just may not, fit who you are anymore at 30. Maybe you have learned something else about yourself, or you've come across some other means of, of support and income that, or even just a hobby, whatever you want to call it, that maybe you can turn into, earning potential for yourself, that, hey, I like this, I want to try this, or I feel like this would be better for me. Okay. Or even if it's just, this, I feel like I'm going to make more money doing this. Okay. So we are constantly trying to figure out what to do with my own life, and not just in terms of, career and money and all of that kind of thing, but as well, just in life, period. Do I want to live in this place? Do I want to stay here? Do I want to continue whatever it may be, and how wonderful it is to experience such variety, to do, a number of different things, as long as you are taking care of yourself, because I feel like often people are criticized for that, but I feel like people are criticized for that by those who may have some kind of inhibition or fear to get out there and just try something different and try something new. Okay, but if that's what they want to do, that's wonderful too. It may not be a fear, maybe that's just what they want to do. But, to look down on others who have experienced a variety of things, or, and try to make them feel like shit because, they just want to have a full experience and in whatever that means for them. All right. All right. To live means to experience anxiety, loss, and sometimes even anguish. Okay, I don't think that needs any explanation. Okay, anxiety is a very real part. I'm not talking about people who have anxiety disorders or need to take medication for anxiety. All right, because it has become something that has overtaken their life. All right. We all experience anxiety at some point in time, at some point or another. Okay, we all experience loss. Okay. Sometimes, it may be small losses, or it can be a great loss. Okay. And these things themselves can lead to anguish. In other words, living means sorrow. Okay. Living means sorrow. Although the message sounds dark, the truth urges us to be realistic. Okay. It sounds glum. It sounds negative. Why would he see that? Why would they see that? That type of thing. It's so depressing, but yet it's a reality. Okay, so let's be realistic. Okay, it's not melancholy, it's realistic here. Okay, it is also helpful in the sense that if we recognize why suffering comes about, then we can lessen it. He didn't say eliminate it. It didn't say eliminate it. It didn't say get rid of it, but we can lessen it. Okay, if we have an understanding of why it comes about, which I feel like would lead, us into having an understanding of the self. But let's continue on. The second noble truth. Where does suffering come from? If we know living is suffering and we can lessen it, then how we lessen it? By recognizing it, why it comes about. Then let's see where it comes from. Okay, suffering comes from desire. Here is the second noble truth. Okay, in Buddhism. All right. When he analyzed suffering, remember what he saw, the 4 passing sights. Remember his background. You have to understand that. You have to understand the founder of this particular religion's or philosophy background to understand this religion in and of itself, okay, to have a full understanding of it. When he analyzed, just the foundation, the bricks that have been laid, the bricks and mortar that have been laid to build this worldwide religion here. When he analyzed suffering, the Buddha saw that it comes from wanting what we cannot have and from never being satisfied with what we do have, okay? And I think that's not, it's just interesting because we hear these things now, this kind of rhetoric now. This is not, it's like what they say, there's nothing new under the sun, all right? A Bible verse, okay? I'm pretty sure I read that in there. A lot of times we say stuff is Bible verses and it's not, but I'm pretty sure I read that, okay? But when he analyzed suffering, the Buddha saw that it comes from wanting what we cannot have. Often, yes, we want what we cannot have. We're constantly striving to have something that we cannot have. It's so interesting. I've been seeing some interesting topics, videos come through my feed here on YouTube that I never saw before when I had my other YouTube channel. And now I've been watching some of them. And one person that has come up a lot is Kevin Samuel. So I've been watching some of his videos. And I think that is part of the premise for what he is saying. And I'm not saying I agree with him, and I'm not saying I disagree with him either. This video is not about that, and what I'm about to say has nothing to do with whether I agree or disagree with him. But I think part of what he's saying, which I have heard him say, is that what he's doing is he's speaking to what he feels and he believes women saying that they want something, and he's saying that you cannot have that because of A, B, C, and B. As a result of you thinking that you can, but you cannot have that, you are causing yourself anguish. You are causing yourself suffering. You are causing yourself pain, okay? Understand, I'm not giving any kind of commentary on whether I agree or disagree with him, okay? So maybe that'll be another video for another time. Okay. At this point, I don't choose to talk about my agreement or disagreement. So let's, make sure we have an ear to hear what is being said. Okay. So we can see that sometimes we, that we want something. Okay, but we cannot have that particular thing for whatever the case may be, whatever the reason may be. All right. And then from never being satisfied with what we do have. Okay, here it is. You want something, you can't have it, but then what about what you do have? And it's just like, it's just not enough. I have to have more. Okay. And I've seen that in some of those videos. So I'm just using that as an example. I've seen that in some of those videos as well, where, what maybe some of the callers are calling in for, it's like the more they talk and the more they share their stories, like you already had that. And that is what he's saying. You already had that, but you weren't satisfied with it. What causing yourself more anguish, causing yourself more suffering, unnecessary suffering. All right. So let's think about that. That's just an example, but we can think about things in our own lives. And when I'm sure we can think of it, when from other perspectives as well. The word, when I say perspectives, I mean, other things. What else is there that we want? You may want a, $1 million car, but you make, $50,000 a year. That's not going to, yield you that, but yet you might find some way to go get it. But because it wasn't for you to have, because you didn't have enough money to maintain it, insurance or whatever I'm hearing, like insurance premiums, so on and so forth, you have caused yourself some unnecessary suffering because, fall behind in your payments, so on and so forth. And now they put the damn track on your car. And I remember I was hanging out with this girl who had not, car note, was not paying a damn car note for whatever. I don't think she had a job. I can't remember. That girl, he tried to hide that car. We went out somewhere, someone else was with us, and we got in the car to go somewhere else. We got back, that car was gone. Okay, because then people had been hunting her down, to repossess that car. Well, they got the trackers on it and shit now, so whatever they got on there to be able to find you. All right. But anyway, the word Trishna, which is Sanskrit, or Tana, which is Pali, which is often translated as desire, might be better translated as thirst, which is so funny. I was just thinking when I saw that thirst, how people say they're thirsty. Okay. Thirsty, in other words, wanting something that they can't have. wanting someone that they cannot have. You're thirsty. It can also be translated as craving, suggesting both an addiction and a fear of loss. Interesting. Some of our desires are obvious. Okay, we have desires for food. I think that's a necessity, but maybe particular kinds of food. But let's keep reading here. Food, sleep, clothing, housing, health. All right. Well, let me just keep on reading. Some desires are more subtle. Privacy. We want privacy. We want respect. We want friendship. I know a lot of people walking around talking about make money, not friends. Well, it often takes friends to make money. All right. I know that's the order of the day. Okay, but I think that's some bullshit. All right. But nevertheless, friend, you can have both. Friendship, quiet, stresslessness. We want to be stress-free, security, variety, beauty. And some desires are simply wants that are often cultivated by society, by the culture. Okay. And then you have, subcultures under the main culture. Okay. For example, alcohol, designer clothes. Okay. Now, he has desire at the first thing are obvious: food, sleep, clothing. I don't think that food, sleep, and clothing are desires. I think they're necessities. Okay. But I do agree with him that when he says designer clothes, there's a desire for designer clothes as opposed to just clothes, something to cover my body, tobacco, entertainment, food here. He has expensive food, do you really need to spend that much money, on a burger and fries or a steak or whatever, just to say, it's definitely now with social media, just to post up and say, take some pictures. I went to this particular restaurant for a steak that cost goddamn, too motherfucking much when I could have went, somewhere else to the cheapest steakhouse or shit, just bought one and made it for myself. All right. Maybe leading you to, you spent a little too much money, forgo paying a bill. All right. To be able to stunt and go out and say, I did this, I did that. We're not talking about people who got the means in which to do that. We're talking about those who do not. Okay. For this particular example. All right. We all have desires, and because life around us is always changing, remember that. That is the only constant. That is, what is this? This is the Four Noble Truths. That was that was the first mark of reality. Change. Change is inevitable. Life around us is always changing. No matter how much we acquire, we cannot be permanently satisfied. You can have, I'm looking at my closet right here. I got 2 closets full of clothes. Okay, got my summer, spring clothes back here, my winter stuff up there, and it's full, falling out the damn closet. Okay, but am I satisfied? No, I got to have this, I got to have that, I want to have that particular dress, want to have that particular thing. You understand what I'm saying? All right, many of us. Okay, more shoes than the law should allow, more this than the law should allow. We hear a lot about people who are becoming minimalists because they realize, I don't need all this shit, I don't even use all this shit. Okay, like I just thought about for the last week or so, a lot of these clothes got to go, I don't even wear them. All right, but nevertheless, desire is insatiable. It is insatiable, and the result is discontent, dissatisfaction, and sometimes misery. Okay. Desire is insatiable. It can never be quenched. We will get something that we want. We will get something that we desire. All right. And then, like I'll use example of a car. It's easy, clothes, whatever. Okay. A particular, that person. Okay. That man, I got to have it. And get it, yet are still not satisfied. May tickle your fancy for a short period of time or for a period of time, but then it's like, got to have more, got to have more clothes or another car or another person. Okay. Another this, more, constantly. Desire. Okay, we're not talking about things that are necessities. We're talking about desires, and desires that has already been stated are often cultivated by society, the dictates of the society that we live in, not what you truly in your heart and mind really want. Okay, or maybe you do, but again, it may be cultivated by the society, not something that you thought about or that you came up with. Okay, we are run, okay, by the dictates of our society. We are. Okay, and definitely now we talking about this. The Buddha came up with this during the time, I don't know what their mass communication was like back then. Okay, but we're talking about a time now where how you think advertising works. This is what this shit is based off of. You appeal to a person's desire. You know that burger that they flashed on the camera, Burger King, McDonald's, whatever. When you go buy that shit, it does not look like that, okay? They got videos here on YouTube that show you how they make, in their advertisements, make foods look a particular way. You go to make it, you go to buy it. It doesn't look like that, okay? But they are appealing to that aspect of you, appealing to desire, your desire to go and purchase it. All right. The result is discontent. I'm still not satisfied. I'm still not content, just at a place of peace. Satisfied, dissatisfaction, and sometimes misery. But is there a way to be free of suffering? Is there a way to be free of suffering? All right. If life is suffering and suffering comes from desire, then now we know life is suffering. We know where it comes from. Now let's see, can we end it? What is the third noble truth? The third noble truth is to end suffering in desire. Just that simple. Okay. If you want to end suffering, if you want to end being discontent, dissatisfied, maybe even miserable, this craving, blah, blah, blah. How do we do it? In desire. It is hard to argue with the reasonableness of this truth. Yet it goes against modern Western notions. Okay, this is interesting because we're talking about a religion here that was not born in modern times, and definitely not the West, but born in, a completely different time period in the East. Okay, but let's keep on going. Okay, so we see that there was some, there's some things that connect us, or that, as human beings, that we find that are, what's the word I'm looking for? I just will say true about human beings, regardless of the time period or where. All right. Some, I didn't say all, but let's keep on going. The Western tendency is to strain to achieve every imaginable desire. The Western tendency is to strain to achieve every imaginable desire. The Western tendency is to what? Strain. Does that sound pleasant to you? Does that sound like, something stress-free? Definitely not. Okay. To achieve every imaginable desire. All right. Another thing that I've been seeing on YouTube is videos of people who just like, fuck this, I'm not doing this no more. I'm not stressing and straining myself no more. We see that with people who are minimalists. I don't need all this shit no more. It's too much of a, it's a strain. Okay. Or too much to take care of. Okay. For one person, too much for one person to have. Or people who have said, I'm not going after, these Western desires any longer. Okay, I'm not going to live my life stressing and straining myself out and, causing myself suffering, lack of sleep, so on and so forth, to try to achieve, this every, imaginable desire that is dictated by our society. All right. The tendency seems to thrive in cultures, such as modern ones, that emphasize individual legal and moral rights, competition between individuals, and individual success in school, in one's job, and in sports. All right. Belief in a distinct and permanent self. Okay. But he didn't believe in that. Okay. But so let's listen. Belief in a distinct and permanent self or an immortal soul may be the origin of such individualism. Isn't that interesting? I need to underline. I had to underline, but I want to underline it again. Belief in a distinct. Sometimes I really like something when I'm reading, I'll underline it, and I'll underline it again. I have two underlines, or I'll I highlighted and underlined it, okay? But belief in a distinct and permanent self. Remember, he did not believe in the notion of a permanent self, nor did he believe in the notion of a permanent soul, okay? Because everything changes, all right? According to Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as the Buddha. Belief in a distinct and permanent self or an immortal soul may be the origins of such individualism. And we see that in our society, individualism, me, okay? This tendency is rather different from the sense of self that comes from a worldview that values the individual's membership in a group. Me, not you. Just only me, not the community. Only me, not, the family structure. Only me. Me, who I am, what I want, my rights. Again, like he said, legal rights, my rights, my rights, my rights. Competing with others. Me. Okay, not you. Okay, not working together as a collective. Okay, not coming together as a collective, as a group, as a community, but just only me. All right. This tendency is rather different from the sense of self that comes from a worldview that values the individual's membership in the group, a view of self more common traditionally in tribal and Asian cultures. All right. To our modern way of thinking, the Buddha's recommendations may seem stark. He himself left home. He left his family. He left his possessions. Why? Because he believed and taught that any kind of attachment will bring inevitable suffering. He was, he was forced into attachment. Okay. But nevertheless, attached nonetheless. Okay. Seeing those four passing sights, seeing, was that for? Yeah. The suffering. Okay. What is this all about? I myself, in a sense, as a Buddha, I'm talking about Siddhartha Gautama, I myself was in a prison. I myself was suffering. Okay. Any kind of attachment will bring inevitable suffering. The shaven head and special clothing of monks and nuns symbolize their radical detachment from worldly concerns. Okay. And we find that in religions, various religions, when we talk about, there is even some kind of, dress code maybe, or uniform that you will find with members of various religions. And it has nothing to do with, there are reasons that we find these things in these religions. Okay. If you don't take time to do the research and reading and study, you will be just come from your, again, modern Western notion thinking, oh, that's stupid, that's silly, we don't need to do that, as opposed to, or that's oppressive, as opposed to taking the time to do the study to find out where it came from and why human beings actually decided that this is what was necessary for them to do in adhering to a new belief system or to a particular belief system that they felt was helping them achieve a level of spirituality. All right. We can stand to do a lot more of that. Okay. Myself included, as opposed to just coming from some modern nothing or a blurb that we might hear on YouTube or a blurb we might see on Facebook, not knowing who the originator of that blurb is, or especially if they're behind some, if you can't see the person or whatever, you do not know who this is. You do not know what their agenda is. And even if they don't have one, even if they're just spewing off whatever it is they think or believe, take time yourself to go open up a book and read and have an understanding. Why did the nuns dress from head to toe? Why do the Muslims dress from head to toe? Why in, early days of Christianity, the women dress from head to toe or wear something on their head? All right. I know we got the one scripture for those who know Christianity. Paul, when he was talking to the one particular church, not all of them. I can't remember which one. Okay, I'm here in Ephesus, which would be Ephesians, but I can't say that's 100% sure, 100% correct. I don't think it is. Where they were telling the women to cover their heads. That one particular church. Okay, I'm not saying I'm in agreement or disagreement. I am just saying that sometimes we need to take the time to study. Okay, and I'm not saying you got to go get 1,000 books and study this one particular thing. No, go read and find out, why did they do this? What did this mean to them? As opposed to just taking this idea, well, we can be naked in our society now. So any religion where they decided that they dress from head to toe and cover themselves for whatever reason is just oppressive. Read, study, look. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. I'm not saying you have to disagree with it. But in other words, we need to just, stop talking out the side of our neck. Ain't cracked open, not even a Wikipedia, which from what I understand ain't the best resource. Okay. So why do they do it? The shaven head, the special clothes. Why did he shave his head? Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as the Buddha, give up all his worldly possessions, even walk away from his family, his father, mother, his mother had died, I'm sorry, his father, family, everybody that he knew, people on the royal grounds, his wife, his child. Okay. So remember, the one passing sight he saw was a renunciant, which is basically what he became. Okay, and the nuns, here I'm reading now, excuse me, monks and nuns symbolize their radical detachment from worldly concerns, not to oppress anybody, but to demonstrate physically what they were believing and feeling spiritually that they felt they needed to do. To what? Religion. Tie themselves back to the greater, the source. Back to it. Religion. Which you're going to have, which human beings are going to develop. If you got rid of all these that we know now, it's going to be some more. And I will be getting into my other book when I get into it. Okay. About quasi-religions, sub-religions that all of us participate in. Buddhists themselves recognize, though, that not everyone can be a monk. Consequently, this third truth here, in suffering, it's in desire, is moderated for lay people. It is commonly interpreted as a recommendation that everyone accept peacefully whatever occurs. Accept it peacefully. Why resist it? Why fight it? Okay. And there is, I was just listening to somebody the other day talking about resistance. There's a scripture in the Bible that, now there is the one scripture where we know it says resist the devil and he will flee, but there's another one, sometimes we find what people may look at as contradicting messages in the Bible. But if you don't understand that one church at Ephesus was different than that other church at Corinth, and that what was happening to the Hebrew people at that particular time in their history, in the Kings is different than what might have been happening, in the Genesis and the Exodus, so on and so forth. And it will look like that. It is commonly interpreted as a recommendation that everyone accept peacefully whatever occurs, aiming less for happiness and more for inner peace. And I'll go back to Kevin Samuels again, which I thought was interesting because of one thing. In a couple of videos, people were saying, he was like, why you want to be married? And he was like, people were like, I just want to be happy. He was like, that's not what marriage is for. What? No, I know. In our modern today, Western notions, happy, married, we talk about, I want to be happy, where it's just like life doesn't have anything to do with that. Marriage doesn't have anything to do with that. Happiness. Okay. You experience happiness. We're not talking, happiness is, we have to understand happiness and inner peace and contentment and inner joy is not the same thing. Okay. Just want to have, when people say want to be happy, they just want to feel good all the time. That is not the reality of life. And I don't need to read this to understand and know that. If we experience life, a babies come to the world, they're mad as hell, they're crying, they're upset, they done came out their warm home, they've done gone through the birth canal, they've gone through a process, okay? Of course they are crying. They may be experiencing some anguish, okay, from leaving that place. Okay, here, now transitioning into another and having to adapt to a new space, okay? When they're hungry, okay, need attention, love. So why am I saying a baby? Because I'm saying as human beings, period. If they experience it, they ain't always happy. You know, and we look at them, we get so happy looking at them, how big and doughy-eyed and just cute they are and so on and so forth. They ain't always happy. They don't always feel good. So if they don't, then we damn sure don't. Okay, we were all babies at one point. I would like to think that all of us were. All right. So aiming less for happiness and more for inner peace. How do we obtain inner peace? By accepting the realities of life. Okay. The individual should concentrate on the present moment, not on the past or the future or one's desires for them. Shit. And definitely in this world, you know, I can't just say in this society, Western society, that's a challenge. Okay. All right. To just focus and be in the present moment, to concentrate on the present moment, not the past or the future or our desires for the future. Again, we're thinking about every day what we're going to do with our lives every day. Okay, because times of happiness are always paid for by times of unhappiness. Again, the pendulum swings in both directions. That's life. I like to use the weather as an example. It's going to be a nice 80 degrees outside. A few days ago, it was snow outside. Okay, these are the what we go through before in this area before we actually really get into the season. Okay, but weather, we got our seasons: summer, winter, spring, fall. You know, some areas may not have a winter the way that we have winter here. Okay, but they may experience it through other ways. Tornadoes, hurricanes. It's that particular season in that particular place. Okay. Those probably just feel just as bad as having to go outside and trudge through snow and cold. Okay, maybe worse. All right. It swings, but yet again, here, the sun is out and it's 80 damn degrees today. Okay, the pendulum of life swings both ways. What did he say? The wise person expects change. Okay, accepts it and then even savors it. Okay, deals with it, understands it, enjoys it, likes it, moves in it, navigates in it. All right, checks themselves. Okay, like people say about the, you know, your shadow work, check themselves. What are my desires that I need to put it into? What is the reality of, you know, these things that I think that I want, that I believe that I want, that the reality is that I cannot have, that I cannot obtain, I can't get. And I know in this world, in our Western world, everybody told that anybody can have whatever they want. You understand what I'm saying? No, it's not the case. Okay, you know, I see this thing about the 1%. They're the 1% for a reason. I'm not saying they're better, and I'm damn sure not saying they're worse. I don't think that will ever change. Everybody ain't, all 100% ain't gonna be up in the 1%. What does he say? A certain emotional neutrality is the best path. Acceptance is a step to inner peace. If I recognize that what I have right now is actually enough. What do you have right now? Think about it. What do you have? Right this second. Recognize that it's actually enough. Okay. Ultimately, I have to accept my body. Okay. You know, well, you know, you can go pump it up, cut it up. Okay. Your genes is your genes. All right. So you don't have to just, you know, modern Western notion, have whatever you want and be happy, regardless of whatever the consequences may be for it. All right. I have to accept my body, my talents, my family. Okay. I mean, you gotta go hang out with them. Okay. And even my relatives, family. Okay. All right. But you are a part of that. All right. And if you find out you're not, you know, then you be part of somebody's. And if you can find out who somebody's that you're a part of, that's even more, that's great. You know, at least to know who you are, where you came from. Okay. You know, it is, I think people like to have, connection. It offers experience. They like to know their roots, you know, who they are, where they came from, their bloodline. It tells them who they are, okay? It gives them a foundation of life and living, okay? Even if they choose to go another path, all right, from that particular family. All right. Of course, some adjustments can be made. I can move. Here we say, I can have plastic surgery. I can change my job and I can get a divorce. But ultimately, much of life simply has to be accepted and appreciated when possible. Okay. The essence of the third noble path is this. I cannot change the outside world, but I can change myself and the way I experience the world. I can't change the outside world, but I can change myself. The power is in your hands, like I had to tell a student the other day. The power is in your hands, regardless of what your circumstances may be, regardless of what's going on around you, regardless of what you're having to deal with at home. Okay, which many of us, okay, pain and trauma is not new to the human. To the, you know, human experience. Okay, the power is in your hands. So I can change myself and how I experience the world, or how people say we can, you know, we can work on it, how we respond to something. Okay. The fourth note, and change one's perspective and not allow societal dictates to tell us how we should, you know, respond to something, or how we should be in the world, or who we should be in the world. I admire brave people. This man was brave, if you ask me. I admire brave people who go against the grain and follow their inner leading. Who go, there's that one meme, it's an old picture where all the white sheep was running right off the cliff, didn't even know it, following each other. He had the black sheep who was walking the other way like, excuse me, you know, excuse me, excuse me. Going his own way. While I'm sure the other sheep were laughing at him. Look at him. He's stupid. What he doing? Okay. He's going to save his life. He's following his inner leading. Okay. Which many of us could stand to do. Okay. As opposed to allowing society to dictate to us who we should be, how we should feel, and basically run our lives through us. Okay. The fourth, because I'm sure many people looked at him like, Siddhartha Gautama, look at this. You're a fool. Yeah, you left all that wealth. You could have been the king, okay? Because you had some questions, and you go out there and you see that mess, and you still opt to not go back to all the wealth and prosperity, you know, that you were afforded. Yeah. Following my inner leading and my inner voice, okay? And now we have this man, Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as the Buddha, you know, who have put together this new philosophy, this new way of living and being, really was for himself, okay? Because he told his own disciples on his deathbed, follow your own path, okay? Not even mine, follow your path, listen to yourself, okay? But yet and still, how many adherents do we have of Buddhism today who it has helped, okay? Them on their spiritual path. You know, I do believe that spirituality can be and is fueled by religion. Okay. I know that go against what a lot of people think and feel, but this is what I believe. All right. Yeah. Okay. As folks like to say, that's my opinion. All right. But I look at it as more than my opinion. All right. The fourth noble truth, release from suffering is possible and can be attained by following the noble eightfold path. The ultimate goal of Buddhism is nirvana here. What is nirvana? The term is a Sanskrit word. The equivalent in Pali is nibbana. And what does it mean? It suggests many things. It suggests the end of suffering. It suggests inner peace. It suggests liberations from the limitations of the world. We talked about limitations. The word nirvana seems to mean blown out or cool, suggesting that the fires of desire have been extinguished. Upon attaining nirvana, the individual has self-control and is no longer driven from inside by raging emotional forces or from outside by the unpredictability of life. Now they're in control, okay? Not outside things, okay? Not the dictates of other voices of society telling you must desire this, you must have that, okay? And being run and ruled and regulated by other voices here, okay? However, the individual, it has self-control. Okay, the individual, the person, you have self-control, okay? And again, and nor from inside, not driven from inside by raging emotional force, not just emotional forces. Emotions are part of being human, but raging emotional forces, things that you allow to run and rule and regulate you, flying off the handle too quickly, and oftentimes over small petty things, okay, or just I want to be happy, in emotion, not a state of being. All right. Let me see. It may not necessarily imply the elimination of anger. Stories tell of the Buddha getting angry at disputes within the monastic community, but it does suggest a general inner quiet, just a general inner peace. It doesn't mean that remember he said lessening suffering. He didn't say eliminating it altogether, okay? Lessening anguish, lessening discontent, lessening these things, all right? So that they are not controlling us, okay? And who we are and how we live our lives, bringing on undue and unnecessary pain, anguish, anxiety, okay, and once again, suffering. Nirvana is also believed to end karma. Okay, remember from Hinduism, okay, karma, okay, it's from lifetime to lifetime. I know we use it as, okay, that person did me wrong, they're going to get their karma for that, and we're talking about in this life. That is not what karma is, all right? I've done it myself, okay? But that is not what karma is. Karma comes from Hinduism, and it is something that, again, is from lifetime to lifetime. What you did in this one life, whatever you are in this in a particular life, is based off of the person you were in your last life, okay? Not taking away the idea of in this present life, okay, you giving what you getting what you give, reaping what you sow, so on and so forth, okay? Just karma is from life to life, all right? All right. Nirvana is also believed to end karma and rebirth after the present life, okay? All right. How do we reach nirvana? We follow the Noble Eightfold Path, all right? Let me see. How much time do I have? Oh, damn, this was an hour. I didn't expect it to be that long. I'm going to end this. I have an appointment that I got to get to, so I'm going to end this. Next video will be the Noble Eightfold Path. Depending on how, long I talk, if it's short, then I'll go further, because like I said, I don't want these videos don't need to be two hours long and hour long and all of that type of thing, all right? And, but nevertheless, check out my website, kenyattasintuition.com, where you will find, I do readings, okay, tarot readings, psychic readings, mediumship. I'll probably be, that. And at Patreon, I am vacillating. I was on my way to do it, and I was like, shit, I don't know. I know y'all like, this girl, one minute she says she's going to do it, next minute she says she ain't going to do it. I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, okay? I don't want my Patreon to be, first, I was just going to do readings because I like doing readings, okay? And I'll do someone here eventually, again, when I fail to do it here on my YouTube channel. But it's just like, there are 1,000 tarot readers out there. There are a lot of people on Patreon who do tarot readings. It's just like, I don't know if that is useful to you or myself in terms of offering it, on a monthly basis, I don't think that it would behoove us to get caught up in tarot readings. Okay, tarot, I'm not putting down tarot. I think it is a powerful force and a wonderful tool. All right, but anything can be abused. You understand what I'm saying? All right, and I don't want to throw up a Patreon just so I can, get some money from folk, and have another stream of income. I do want another stream of income, but I want my Patreon to be something that is going to be, valuable, of value for myself as well as anybody who follows it, or who pays for it, okay, as opposed to just, throwing something together, readings or whatever, just because, you know what I'm saying? So, and I was going to do the meditation, same thing. Okay, there's a lot of guided meditation on YouTube. Okay, free. So I thought about it. That's what the conclusion I came to, and that's why I have not presented it yet, because it's like I feel that people deserve more, and I feel like I can give more than that. I'm not putting it down. I still look at a reading or two. Okay, I don't indulge okay, in it like I did at one time where I watched, you know, I didn't watch it all day long and shit, but I watched it, you know, I watched them, but I don't any longer, okay? We go through phases and we, you know, hopefully move forward, right? And I'm not putting down readers. I think that many of them are doing a wonderful job, but, you know, and I think I like, you know, I like it, you know what I'm saying? But I want to be able to offer you all, anybody who's going to get a pay, you know, if I do Patreon, I want to be able to offer more so than that. Now, I don't want people coming over there just to look at readings all the time. Well, what's this going to be? What's that going to be? Because that's one thing that I found with doing readings, you know, often, and this is not, if any of my clients or people who have paid for a service from me are watching, this is not in any way putting down on any of you, but sometimes I found with people with readings, they ask the same things all the time, and you are paying your money, and you know, because I studied pastoral care and counseling, and you know, I studied not Christian counseling. I studied spirit counseling from a spiritual perspective. I often offer, you know, some kind of spiritual or counseling with the reading, okay, because that's how my readings come out, because that's what I do, you know, that's what I study, and that's what I have practiced, you know, even when I work with students in the school, all right, you know, so, but and you not do it, and it's the same thing, and I understand that sometimes we can be involved in situations that may be difficult for us to remove ourselves from, for whatever reason, desire, you know, causing ourselves more suffering, hoping that things will change, or hoping a person will change when we see clearly they're not going to. And the reading has made it clear, okay? Or even, you know, if, you know, you get the reading and you don't adhere to what the reading is saying, you know. So I don't want, I thought about, it's like, I don't really want people to see pay for readings on Patreon, and I just feel like, I'm beginning to feel like, you know, I would want you to get a personal reading. I don't charge much for my personal reading. This is not a plug for you to just buy a reading from me. Okay, I don't charge much for them because I don't think that it's necessary to. Because when I used to get readings, I had, you know, great readers who didn't charge me a whole lot of money. And, you know, I got some good readings. So I don't feel like it's necessary for me to do that. All right, that's just me. Everybody do what they feel is necessary for them to do. All right. So anyway, so I don't want you to all just checking it out, for those who will get it, checking it out every month just to see, well, what's this going to be? What's that's going to be, you know? And it's not a personal reading. I have not talked to you personally. I'm just doing a general reading online. So I don't want to just rush into something. So I'm going to take some time to give it some thought. All right. All right. I'm going to have another Slavification of America video coming up. And I'm going, for those who are interested, I was talking to a lady in the drugstore, talking about the same issue, like I was talking about that Slavification of America, because she was having an issue, and we just got to talking. To come to find out, she sits on the board of another one of the school districts here in the city, and was lightweight, checking to see where I was employment-wise, all right? It pays to talk to people, okay? That's networking. You know, ain't always got to be at a networking event. All right. You never know who you're talking to. All right. And you know how they can be helpful to you, or how you can possibly be of assistance and helpful to them. But well, I told her I was going to write these folks, and she said, I'm going to join you because I'm having the same issue. So when I do that next Slavification of America video, which I probably am going to do today, I'm going to put at the end, for those of you who want to join, I'm going to put the addresses up of where you can write and who you probably need to send it to. I'm going to put it at the end of the video. All right. So y'all be blessed. That video might go up before this one do. All right. But y'all be blessed. All right. Peace.